Hello, everybody. And I know you're expecting somebody who isn't here. We have some unfortunate news. The good doctor is dead. He's not showing up right now. So the real case is that Dr. Layman is having connection issues, guys, and there's nothing we can do about it right now. He had a connection issue last week, and he couldn't resolve it. He was in here with us for about 20, 30 minutes talking to us, and we started to roll the ball, but oh, sorry. Oh, now I'm being interrupted by the stream. Hold on, I gotta pause it. Okay, but yeah, sorry guys. We're currently waiting to see if Layman will rejoin us. We're not sure. If he doesn't, we're just gonna kind of screw around and read this article and maybe bounce off it a little bit, and then we'll see what happens from there. But other than that, we'll introduce ourselves real quick. My name is Guinness Walker. I will be your host and moderator tonight. Should we get Dr. Layman on, hopefully it'll be more freeform and we won't have to worry about that. But Wayne?
Hi, I'm Wayne and I am an edgelord, not at all a paedophile because that would be wrong.
We have Lone.
Yoski.
We have Mario.
It's me, Mario.
We have Kimoy.
Hey everyone.
We have Gothic.
I am Gothic, and I am the representative of Stormfront. I will joke now, but Dr. Layman is not there. So I am depressed. I will commit Holocaust.
And finally we have Alan.
Vão se fuder todos vocês. Yes.
Okay. So today, since we don't have Layman, we have an article we were going to cover. I'm going to share my screen real quick and get screenception for a second. Okay, so this article is an article by our favorite Milo Yiannopoulos, and we're going to read this. This was just published today, I think, and we're going to skim through it and we're going to see what we have to say, if there's anything we have to say about it. So this is about the infamous Sarah Nyberg. Sarah Nyberg, in shock. Admission, yes, I claim to be a pedophile. I was just trolling. So I'm going to read this whole paragraph here. This is from Sarah Nyberg.
Hang on. You're not screen sharing.
Okay.
We cannot see your screen share.
You can't? Alright, well, whatever. There's no picture, so I'll just read it. Okay, so this is Sarah Nyberg speaking. This is quoted. Chat logs from an IRC I was in nearly a decade ago were leaked to Gamergate. To say the contents of those logs were not flattering would be putting it lightly, and this is the part that Milo highlights. They are, in some ways, much of what you'd expect from an early 2000s chat room of 4chan expats trying too hard to outdo each other for shock value. Even with that context, much of what I said was gross and disturbing, and I have no interest in defending it. Then Milo stops highlighting. Since then, I've learned that intent isn't magic, and a playground of taboo isn't particularly conducive to moral growth. That I've grown past the person I was back then is something I am deeply and forever thankful for. So, in yet another vindication of Breitbart's reporting on the dark secrets of prominent social justice warriors, self-confessed pedophile, apologist for white nationalism, and progressive darling, Sarah Nyberg has confirmed the facts of our recent story about her troubled past. Nyberg, a transsexual who used to be called Nicholas, hoped to become a leading progressive without acknowledging or atoning for her past. But it caught up to her. And our reporting has once again proven completely right. In a lengthy Medium post, Nyberg admitted today that chat logs from the website Final Fantasy Shrine, in which she can be seen claiming to be a pedophile and defending white nationalism, were hers. The crux of Nyberg's arguments seems to be that her behavior in the chat room was an elaborate act of performance art. Taboo became a suit of armor. Each day I would be more and more shocking, more edgy than the last.
Hang on, Layman rejoined.
Please tell me you guys can hear me, please.
We can! We can!
Hooray!
Hey guys, let's
The
just do
Nazi
this.
party!
Alright,
Let's do this really formally. Guys, I'm really, really sorry. I have no idea what's going on, but my internet just died for some reason.
The
To the
Jewish
people listening in, I'm sorry. It's the Jews. Let's go. Let's just go. What's the topic?
Alright. Well, you know what? We're gonna jump in. We're gonna jump back to introductions real quick. We're gonna basically show's restarting. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Triggered, and we have tonight a very special guest, Dr. Layman. My name is Guinness, and I'm gonna be your host. And we have Wayne, Lone, Mario, Kimoy, Gothic, Alan, and of course, our special guest. Say hello, Layman. Haha!
That's the only thing
Beautiful.
you guys are gonna get from me. Hi, guys, Layman here. Let's do this.
He's gonna stay quiet the entire show.
I sure hope so. Okay, so we've got some bullshit to discuss, but I think one of the interesting points that Kimoy was asking you before we got started is exactly how in the world did you end up where you are? I mean, like with the YouTube channel and everything. How did you get started? Why did you make a YouTube channel? And how did you end up in the position of having the YouTube channel that you have now?
It started out 2000 something. I'm not entirely sure. And I had my very first channel. It was a very simple channel about. It was a real layman back then. I had no degree, no idea about anything, and I was talking about video games and politics and just about anything. I got doxxed, and I got into some serious trouble, so I had to shut down my YouTube channel. Now I am almost a proper doctor, so I thought to myself, let's do this again, but this time let's do it properly. So I'm keeping myself really anonymous, low profile, and I'm doing again videos on politics, partially even video games, movies, all the good stuff, but this time not from a proper layman perspective, but from the perspective of an actual sociologist. And there we go with the evil word. I want to hear a big boo from everyone. Do it.
Boo! Fuck sociology.
Thank you.
Hey, Kyle.
Hooray!
Sociology is terrible. 100% sociologically proven.
100%
Nothing wrong.
legit, sociologically proven.
So tonight, guys, we're not going to be doing anything formal. Layman himself said that he doesn't like the formal environment, and you know what? I fucking agree. We're just going to be pretty free-form tonight, and we're going to have a revolving door at some point. So if you're in the chat and you're interested in joining, we might be able to get you on at some point, depending on how long we go for. We're just going to be shooting the shit, bullshitting. It's going to be a lot like Accent Overlords, but with less accents. Although, we do have British, Canadian, German, Brazilian. Yeah, we've got a nice we got a diversity thing going on. The SJWs would love us right now. So.
No, they wouldn't. They'd hate us, man. We don't have any black people. We don't have any women. We don't have any trans people. I mean, there's countless minorities that we haven't got represented here, and yeah, we're failing. We're failing at diversity, guys. We're doing it wrong.
We can get around all of that by just saying that we identify as something, because that's now socially acceptable.
Okay, then just for the benefit of the show, I'll take a bullet and I will identify as a black ginger woman.
I identify as Dr. Layman.
I identify myself as a monkey. See what I did there?
So we're even more diverse than feminism is. That's fantastic. I think we can carry on with the show.
Liberalism is the ideology of Western suicide.
And just to point out something very, very quickly here, Guinness, Dr. Layman didn't say that he didn't like formality. He said he liked formality, he just didn't think that us, as collective shitlords, were capable of it.
That's how you interpreted that. That's delicious.
That is exactly what he said to us. He basically said that we were incompetent, and that I believe his exact words was, "It sounds fucking gay." Those were his exact words, I think.
No, I think
anyway,
he said that you sound gay.
That was to me. Yeah, that was.
Just been hitting on you.
Have we lost him again? Layman, are you there?
Nope.
Oh no.
I think we might have lost Layman yet again.
This is a great show. I really appreciate being here.
We've got 13 viewers and nothing to show for it because people are vanishing.
Yes, and most of the viewers are us on separate accounts or are affiliated with us.
Yep. Well, I guess since we're live, we'll go back to Sarah Nyberg. So, let's go back to this. In a lengthy Medium post, Nyberg admitted today that chat logs from the website Final Fantasy Shrine, in which she can be seen claiming to be a pedophile and defending white nationalism, were hers. The crux of Nyberg's argument seemed to be that her behavior in the chat room was an elaborate act of performance art. The taboo became a suit of armor. Each day I would be more shocking, more edgy than the last, writes Nyberg. Defense of racism, sexual deviancy, murder, and more. But nowhere in the post does Nyberg acknowledge the 8-year-old girl Nyberg claimed to be attracted to. That 8-year-old girl, whom we in our original reporting referred to as Alice, is real. She has a family and a life and is now almost 18. Breitbart spoke to the parents of that young girl. They confirmed the details of our story. Nyberg insists that she has been victimized by our reporting, alleging that her critics were out to destroy her. Yet all her critics have done is repeat her own words back to her. She has yet to address the public records that show her non-payment of taxes, nor has she apologized for justifying white nationalism. Most damningly, Nyberg does not address any of the most I can't even read this. Egregious parts of her chat logs. Egregious. I can't read that word because I'm a pleb. Egregious parts of her chat logs, wherein she claims to have shared pictures of Alice, her underage cousin, which fellow chat room members shared her precise relationship with Alice, such that Alice could be easily identified, and indulged in extensive and disquieting sexually charged chats about her. Chat logs from an IRC I was in nearly a decade ago were leaked, she says. To say the contents of those were not flattering would be putting it lightly. Nyberg goes on to apologize for a number of her comments in the chat room, describing herself as a troubled young person raised on 4chan, an internet edgelord, trying to out-culture shock everyone else and out-troll people around her. Nyberg is still doodling responsibility. Nyberg is still dodging responsibility. Even the title of the post is a lie. In it, she describes herself as a teenage edgelord, an inappropriately lighthearted reference to "I was a teenage werewolf," but the chat logs were reported on date from the early 2000s to 2008, a period in which Nyberg was in her early to mid-20s. It's clear that Nyberg wants to present her actions as youthful indiscretion, but she was not, in fact, particularly youthful. If we ignore the dissembling in the headline, Nyberg's defense is, "I was just being edgy," but is edginess an excuse for a person in their early 20s to self-admit to pedophilia or to dox, upload photos of, and publicly fantasize over an 8-year-old relative? No, it is not. Nowhere in Nyberg's new post do the words pedophile or pedophilia occur. Let us not forget the extent of disturbing facts here. In repeated posts throughout the chat room, Nyberg sexually obsesses over her cousin. At what point, she casually discusses how she might get an erection if she sees Alice. Nyberg's defense of pedophilia in the chat room also seems deadly serious. As we reported, she rails against TV shows that attack pedophiles, writes at length about child sexuality, and praises people who publicly stand up for pedophiles. Posting pictures of a young girl to the intent and providing all the information needed to track that little girl down is not trolling or being edgy, as Nyberg now pathetically claims. It is one thing to post a few incendiary and shocking messages for dramatic effect, quite another to insist in detail for a prolonged period of time that one is a pedophile. Does anyone have anything to say yet?
Not so far.
I'll continue.
It's
Nyberg brings up her... as far as I know, no. Nyberg does bring up her transgender status repeatedly, though. But unless there is some reason...
I really don't care. Is she Jewish or not? That's the real question.
Unless there's some reason why a transgender person should be excused from the consequences of their own self-expressed thoughts and self-described conduct, she cannot explain why less than a decade ago, as an adult, she doxed, uploaded photos of, and named her own family member and then openly fantasized about that relative. Oddly, Nyberg claims in her piece that she retained a lawyer and preemptively contacted the police when allegations about her past began to surface online, and the police have declined to investigate her. We reached out to a contemporary of Nyberg, who visited the FFS Shrine chat rooms, while Nyberg was still active and has known her for a decade. He published a refutation of Nyberg's claims on Medium, expressing skepticism and her explanation. Before Nyberg released her Medium post, many of the people who led to her defense assumed the chat logs had been fabricated. Their veracity was questioned by Margaret Pless of the Daily Costs. Academic Catherine Cross said they were dubious chat logs of unknown provenance. British comedy writer Graham Linhan said Nyberg was the victim of a smear. Now that Nyberg admitted that the chat logs correctly reflect messages she posted on FFS Shrine, apologies and retractions might be in order. Instead, of course, Nyberg's defenders have doubled down once more, sharing and commenting on her post in glowing terms. Yep. And okay, so here's a tweet from Graham Linhan. Yep, their new tactic is smearing their enemies as pedophiles, and their base of operation is fucking 8chan. Here's a tweet from Chris Cluey. You should read this. It's pretty important, and it's a link to the Medium article in which he's exposed. And then he says, I'm Sarah Nyberg, and I was a teenage edgelord. I got out, and it's not too late for you. Okay, I'm not sure what that one has to do with anything. Okay, I'll skip these tweets. Forget the tweets. So, in conclusion, Nyberg's claim, in essence, boils down to an appeal for sympathy. She was miserable, so she acted out. She's over it now. But Nyberg's response contains no apology to Alice's family. Nyberg never wrote of it in her own volition, but solely as a response to our story. It is a pain to Nyberg's own sense of victimhood, not an attempt to reconcile with or move on from the past. So, let's discuss. Wayne, do you have anything to say about that?
Lots of things, but somebody else should go ahead first.
All right. What about Lone?
1 second on that.
Okay. What about Mario? No?
Well, I think, as usual, Milo put out an excellent piece. Really, what are you supposed to say? I mean, I find it disturbing that even when these people have actual proof, as admitted by the person in question, that the chat logs belong to them, that they refuse to say anything about it. Instead they're trying to. I'm not sure what they're trying to do. It almost seems like they're trying to maintain some sort of status quo, like they don't want to break ranks for some reason. It just seems pretty despicable in a way, especially because these people so vehemently defend their values or their purported values, and when they're presented with evidence to the contrary, being done by one of their own, they just completely ignore it.
Objection is really strong with this one.
It's similar to, or not similar. It's exact to what Fox Day says in his book, as far as I know, that SJWs always double down. Am I right about that, Wayne?
Well, I don't. Well,
yes.
Not Wayne, but I'd say there's a lot of times where SJWs will turn on each other and attack each other. So it's hard. It's kind of hard to predict when they'll do that and when they'll defend their own. It's hard to say.
Wayne?
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting some background noise there from somebody. But you're absolutely correct. Vox has no doubt tweeted out. I've not been paying close attention to Twitter this weekend, but I guarantee you that he's mentioned it. This is the thing. I'm with Mario on this. What's baffling to me is that all of these people that are coming out of the woodwork in defense of Sarah Nyberg, they're all of them universally are coming out and saying that they're trying to smear people and defend her in the sense that she's innocent of doing anything. Not a single one of them is acknowledging the fact that, hey, you know what? She herself has come out and said, this is what I did, this is what I said, these are my words, everything that has been reported is absolutely true. The way that it's being framed, that's for the courts to decide, but I think it's already been pretty much tried in the court of public opinion, and I'm certainly not really convinced by this I was an edgelord story. I think it's a little bit bullshit. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand why they're not coming out now and saying, you know what, we need to distance ourselves. This can't be good for your PR. if you're a person in any kind of position of authority, if you have any responsibility at all, and you're still defending this person, then there's something wrong with you. Your values are very messed up.
Well, especially when you take into consideration that this person is generally considered, at least among their group and publicly, to be one of the faces of their movement, so to speak. It really is baffling when you look at it in that context. This is a person that publicly is representing the things that these people purport to care about, and yet the silence is deafening.
Yeah, this I don't understand any of this. This is insanity to me. I don't know. Like I hear what you guys are saying, but to me this is like I cannot believe that SJWs go this far, and I cannot believe that they can look at this situation and objectively evaluate it and be like, "Yep, that person's being smeared."
There's your first mistake.
Objectively evaluate anything ever.
Yeah.
They don't.
I think.
Right. Well,
I think part of it.
They think they do. I mean.
No, they don't. They listen and believe. They don't objectively do. It's against what they generally go for. They project whatever the hell their faults or their problems are on everyone else and take it to the umpteenth degree. So whenever somebody in their camp is horribly, horribly wrong, they just no, they can't be wrong because they're our side.
Mm-hmm.
So Sargon's law.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Right.
It takes a very special kind of cognitive dissonance to be able to think the way that an SJW does. I don't think it's even worth trying to get inside their heads. You can only observe their behaviors. That's what Vox's book's about. It's about observing how they behave and then learning how to counter that, learning how to deal with them, which a lot of the time means getting your hands a bit dirty. But that's what needs to be done. And that's effectively what Milo's doing. It's effectively what everybody who is pushing to expose Nyberg for the actions of the past. That's what they're doing. They're not doing it in a social justice style. They are pretty much reporting the facts as they see them and as they are being presented. But you've got to get your hands dirty in order to expose these people for what they are, lying projectors.
Right, but they're also getting verification for everything that they're claiming as well. So, it's not like it's slander. It's not baseless accusation.
That's the difference. I mean, we're talking about similar techniques, if you like, but the difference being that one is in pursuit of the truth and one is in pursuit of some ideological fantasy.
Right, and I would say that it's really almost impossible to attain a real victory based solely on ideological grounds. Unless you have facts to back what you're saying up, you're never going to gain ground. You're never going to get traction. Sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry.
I forgive you, Mario.
So, does anyone else have anything to say about this, or do you want to move on to discussing something else?
Very quickly. I just want to address something here, right? Imagine if the article was about someone from the Gamergate side, and just imagine how the backlash would be. Just picture it.
Well, it would be absolutely huge.
Yeah, that's just
because it would fit into the narrative that they've been pushing for the last year.
Yeah. That's basically my point. If it was the other way around, it would be just a huge backlash from everything because the narrative would fit like a glove for everyone, and that would piss me off the most.
Well, this is the point again. This is why, and I don't want to sound like I'm plugging the guy, but this is why I think people should take a good long look at Vox's book and really apply the thinking, the presentation of information that he's got there. Apply that to the last year, and you can see exactly why this was pretty much expected. This is almost inevitable that somebody who is highly prominent in the anti-Gamergate camp is going to end up being exposed for being some kind of disgusting monster, whether it be somebody who's a pedophile, somebody who's a rapist, somebody who is any of those things, and it's because of the principle of SJWs always lie, they always double down, and they always project. And if you think of some of the accusations that have been leveled at Gamergate as a collective by people who are anti-Gamergate, what does that actually mean? If you extrapolate from that and you look at these people, just how much of this rhetoric is a projection of themselves?
Pretty much all of it.
Okay, I think that topic is exhausted by now.
Agreed.
Yeah, Alan, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I want to ask you about social justice in Brazil.
Okay.
How is it there? Can you give us a summary?
Yeah, the basic summary is this, right? We have the social justice warriors who are mostly white privileged people. So it's not much different than the other places, but it's just very restricted to very isolated places. And we have something here in Brazil which is very common, especially on the further you go from the downtown. The spirit of I'd say vindictive justice, where you take justice with your own hands, is much more present with the people here in Brazil because the Brazilians don't feel like they're being that justice is being made most of times. We have a lot of corruption going on. Most of the judicial system is complete garbage. And it's something like this, right? Someone steals a wallet in downtown, and for some reason, someone gets the thief. So instead of waiting for a cop to come and arrest the guy, people just go ahead and try to lynch the thief. Not to kill it, but just to give him a lesson, you know? And this is very present in Rio, in São Paulo, in the biggest cities. And the thing is, the social justice warriors from Brazil, I think that they might have more of a point here because we're talking about something here that doesn't work, that is justice, the justice system here. So when you talk justice in first world countries or in Europe, man, it's just a complete opposite of what works here in Brazil because when you see those stuff happening in first world countries, you'd say you're being oppressed. No, no shit, Lord, you're not being oppressed. Go to Africa, go to the third world countries, and see what looks like being oppressed. Go to Saudi Arabia, that's being oppressive. You're just complaining about microaggressions. Fuck you, grow a pair. I think that's just the message. People in the first world in Europe are just being pissed off by the most minimal stuff. And here in Brazil, there's this stuff that you have these people here too, but they're more isolated, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, are the universities, infected with the SUW virus, as I call it?
Yes, it's much present here in the universities.
We might have just gone off air. I just dropped out.
It still says that it's live, so
it still says live. So I'm gonna go with the assumption that we're still going.
Yeah,
but
I
just see.
we back in like a few minutes, and it won't drop the live stream.
So one of the problems I'm having is that I can't really go out and send out a tweet for the stream because as soon as I try to do anything on a browser, that's what happens. I get kicked out. So yeah, so I need somebody else to tweet out the link to the stream if we want some people to join us, or even possibly go into the chat and see if anybody in the chat wants to join us, because I think there was a few originals. So see if there's any new ones in the chat and see if they would like to join us for a little discussion. But other than that, I really don't have a show planned right now, and so I'm not really sure what we're gonna do.
So Alan, you're saying that there's a greater spirit of a vigilante justice or something because of a lack of confidence in the government's justice system, I guess.
We are talking about a country that has a president with 8% approval from the people. 8%. I think that's a world historical low.
And for more context, what would be? I mean, for example, what would be? How does Brazil handle something like the topic of gay marriage? And
I don't think it's legal. I'm sure it's not legal to be married with two gay couples. I think I'm not up to date with the jurisdiction uh, in Brazil about it. Let me just check real quick.
Yeah, I'm just asking just to get a general sense of how progressive it is, I guess.
Yeah, it's a
But another
right.
thing,
Yeah, okay, so here
but
you go.
another thing I'm wondering is sort of when it comes to university, for example, is
Okay.
for example, in the U.S., a lot of people go to university. Is in Brazil, is it like more of an upper class thing, or is it a lot of people going to university? I'm wondering.
There are the public universities which are still regarded as the best universities in the country. So there's a few private universities which are also attended as the best. So we have something like 50-50, and social justice concepts are more present in the public universities because most of the people that go to public universities go from a quota system, from racial quotas. So it's more present in the public universities, but it's also present in the private universities. I've studied in a private university, and there's still a lot of people with social justice concepts going on in the campi. Yeah, I'd say. So it's present. The better the university, I think, the more it's going to be present. But compared to what, say, USA or Europe, we don't have the crazy concepts applied to the campi yet. So there's this small amount of students who want to apply their gender constructs ideas to the university directors. They just say, "Shut up, go back to your chair and go study." They won't. They just say a big fuck you to these concepts. Still, I don't know how long it's going to be until they start to bring it up as a serious issue. I don't know.
Is there this concept of everyone needs to go to college in Brazil, or is there like a lot of viable alternatives?
Um, it's just like every third word there is. The more you study, the more um, you're elected to be. You're elected. The more you are prepared to be for a job. So there's a few areas that give more money than the others. For example, if you go to college for oil engineering, so you're just set for life. I know a few people that went to oil engineering and they have a good salary, and that's it. But there are other courses, like for example, journalism. Um, um, I'd say law school. There's a lot of people that go to these colleges, and it's exactly like in the USA. We have women going to these college fields that pay less, and they say that there's a wage gap. But it's the same thing that goes on in the USA happens here in Brazil. We have this order from all of the lawyers here in the Rio that they are pushing to get more women in the law. So they want to push on a 50-50 quotas for women and for men. And they don't care if the men are more they are more lectured to be in law school. They just want to be a 50-50 because vagina. It's absolute bullshit. So that's one example of one field that's actually pushing social justice agenda.
It's interesting. I don't know anything about the whole Brazilian system. I mean, I've never even considered it. And, you know, Alan, why don't you tell us just how deeply it's how deep is the social justice poisoning in your country completely? Like just outside of even outside of college.
For the masses, we have something like the soap operas that are very common that most of the masses watch for entertainment, and most of the concepts from that were applied to other countries. That, for example, you have a male protagonist that has a lot of feminine characteristics. We have this present here. So whatever happens in the USA, in Europe, we have this culture that is slowly trying to gather to a more feminine presence in everything. So, for example, I mentioned last week, I read a newspaper that said that the new man in Brazil is a more feminine man. He has his feelings. He shows whenever he's sad. He doesn't have this stoicism. But you see that here's this thing: masculine traits in soap operas here in Brazil are regarded as something that the villains have. So whenever you have this villain, he's actually like this buffed up guy with a lot of tattoos. He just smack talks all of the women in the soap operas, and he just doesn't give a shit. He does his stuff, and he's okay with everything. And most of the times he's just a thief or something like a guy who makes his living out of small crooks or something. Uh, the typical Brazilian guy that wants to live from extorting small things out of others, you say. So this is what the culture here is all about. They want to portray feminine traits as something good and the masculine trait as something bad. But as far as this goes, I think Brazil compared to USA, compared to Europe, I think we have more of a thing called people are more self-aware about how they look. So we have something here that most of men that I know, compared to USA, I think more Brazilians are going into the gym. They use beauty products, and there's this metrosexual thing going on here. I think it's less of a feminine thing, more of like you must take care of yourself regardless. So I think that the line between being a man that just takes care of himself and it doesn't have he has these feminine traits that help his masculine traits, I guess. It's not something that applies to USA that you have to be a man that listens to women, that understands their feelings. If you do this here in Brazil, you're just going to get eaten alive. Trust me.
Right. With Brazil, it's completely different. Okay, I don't. I need somebody else to speak on this because I'm currently trying to get involved in the chat. So does anybody else have some thoughts on this? Wayne?
Well, I mean, we discussed quite a bit of this with Alan off the air a few days ago, and there's a lot of things that he brought up that were quite interesting. But I'm interested in the Petrobras situation. I'm wondering what the latest is on that, because the last I heard, and for those that don't know, there's a big problem with corruption, which led to massive protests earlier on in the year because of a massive amount of bribes that are allegedly played by corporations, and we've got people who've been imprisoned. There was a whole thing with the Attorney General was basically. The last I heard was launching a probe into it and investigating the involvement of politicians, and I'm just wondering where that is now because I've not seen anything for a few months.
What's happening here is that they're actually investigating the people on the top row of the corruption schemes. It's been quite a long time. I think it's the first time here in the country history that the attorney generals are actually looking into the president and their election schemes. This has never happened before, and this is getting the people out of their pants, out of control. So just so we have an idea, we have the Congress leader for the congressman. He's actually being investigated for corruption, and that never happened before. Someone that's the third in line for power here in Brazil being investigated for corruption actively. And what this translates to Petrobras is something like this, right? Rio de Janeiro is a state here in Brazil that's the most affected by anything related to Petrobras. So if Petrobras is doing okay, the state is doing okay. And if it's doing not good, the state is also not doing so good. So what's happening here is we have a state corporation being completely ripped apart by the corruption, and the investors are just not buying into the "we're investigating" rhetoric, and the state is suffering for it. I've seen a lot of people that are holding back their resources and trying to get ready for an imminent crisis that's coming. We don't have actually a crisis per se in country, but we already have a recession. We're not growing anymore. We're actually going back economically speaking. And instead of the government actually acting to cut costs, they want to put more taxes. And we're talking about a third world country that has a 38% amount of money going directly into taxes. Our tax weight is huge. We have a third world situation here in taxes. The amount of taxes the average Brazilian pays is just ridiculous. And they want to add more taxes out of it because we're in a recession. So it's just crazy, right? Instead of stimulating the economy, they want to push it back even more by adding more taxes to it.
So we actually have a question from the chat for Alan. So back to the topic of the social justice's infiltration into Brazil.
Anime and manga?
Yeah, anime and manga.
So we have a lot of old school animes that are still popular. I remember I watched this anime called Saint Seiya. I'm actually a fan of it. I really enjoyed Saint Seiya. I remember back in the day we had these action figures. They were very expensive. I guess they were like $50 a piece, but they were insanely awesome because the armor was shiny, and each of the saints were from from astrology. So, for example, you have the Taurus sign, and he was a guy that was actually a Brazilian, for instance, and there was from my sign Aries, and he was like a guy with pink hair. That anime was awesome. And there was also Dragon Ball Z, which is very famous, and everyone here likes Dragon Ball Z.
I do.
Let
No,
me
I do.
see. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z is very, very, very famous here. Everyone likes it. As far as animes and mangas go, if people here enjoy them, they enjoy the same things that people in the USA and in Canada and Europe did. It's just like it, just like everywhere else, I guess. But as far as mainstream media goes, Dragon Ball Z, Saint Seiya was very famous back in the day. And I guess, let me see, there's this other manga which is very, very good. It's present here as well. Let me remember the name. I'll come back to it. I forget the name here, but
All right. Well,
that's it.
all right. Well, I think we're going to move on a little bit from the Brazil topic, if that's all right, Alan.
That's okay.
So I have nothing, literally nothing, and so
we're going to move on to nothing.
We're going to move on to nothing, and we're going to. I'm gonna end the show because we were hoping to get Layman on. We had him for a good 10 minutes. And he's been gone. He's been gone now for a good 20. So I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I just want to apologize to our viewers. It is not anything we have any control over. Layman's connection is apparently very Jewish, so there's not much we can do about this. And we might be able to get him on a future show, but I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm sorry, and this is unfortunate. So, anyone have any closing thoughts before we kick out here?
The fucking Jews did it. For fuck's sake, we need another Holocaust to avenge Layman. This is pissing me off.
Well, that was productive.
Yep. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Well, before we go off, remember to tune in on Saturday for Anna Cherry.
Yes.
I just hope I can make the stream.
We will be. I will send out a tweet about that fairly soon, and so we will be having Anna Cherry on the show on Saturday. Yeah, so tune in for that. That ought to be interesting. And other than that, we are again sorry for the bit of a double take you guys did today. For any Layman fans that might be actually watching, we apologize.
Good night, and thanks for all the fish.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye bye.